That's my signal that we are live and ready to go here. So thank you so very much, everyone, for joining us here today. I think the utility in these calls, and thanks for joining us live, those of you who have, but we're recording this obviously, and we'll be sharing all the information that comes forth today on today's call with all sorts of people. So we appreciate it very much. But again, thanks for those who are joining us live. Good afternoon. My name is Dan Cunningham. I'm the Vice President of Government Relations and Education at Forward Janesville. And again, my pleasure to welcome you all. Today's call is presented by BMO Harris Bank. BMO Harris Bank has dedicated bankers in the local market who understand your business, industry, and market, and offer solutions for your unique needs. BMO has deep roots in the community with a long history of supporting Forward Janesville and other local nonprofit organizations. So thanks to BMO for their support of this organization and the community. It's been a wonderful partnership. So before I get into today's program, I want to remind you that you can submit a question for any of our panelists or just a question in general by simply putting it in the chat function. We'll grab that out and ask the question on your behalf. And also, I hate to say it, don't take it personally, but if I can hear your dog barking in the background or anything like that, I probably will mute you. Don't take it personally. It's just one of those things in our lovely virtual world that we have to deal with. So thanks again for your consideration and courtesy. So today we are thrilled to welcome an esteemed panel to discuss our area's workforce situation. Mark Horowitz, the Director of Workforce and Community Development at Blackhawk Technical College, and a great friend and partner, Dr. Tricia Clayson, the Dean of the College of Integrated Studies and the Assistant Vice Chancellor at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater at Rock County, James Otterstein, the Rock County Economic Development Manager, and Rhonda Suda, the Chief Executive Officer of the Southwest Wisconsin Workforce Development Board. So to kind of set things up, I think, for our conversation, and again, we do want to keep this very conversational, so we're gonna ask our panelists questions and get the conversation going that way. But to set this up, I would refer you to the Janesville Community Dashboard that Forward Janesville released last month. We had a tab for dependable and skilled workforce, and frankly, we thought long and hard about which metrics gave the best snapshot of our area's workforce situation. So we thought about it a lot, and we settled on four tiles, really, four metrics. The average monthly unemployment rate for the Janesville-Beloit MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Area, the total civilian labor force in the MSA, the monthly average of unique job postings across all sectors, and Rhonda was able to point us to some really good data there, and the actual number of unemployed people in the Janesville-Beloit MSA. So these metrics tell us that our job market continues to be hot and that it is a market that is very good for job seekers. But let's take that and drill down a little bit. So let's get into it. First question that I have kind of is pointed towards James Otterstein and Rhonda Suda. So you guys can play a little pitch and catch here if you'd like. We hear every day from businesses that are having trouble hiring the people they need. And we set out to quantify this trend on our dashboard, where we report that the monthly average of unique job postings from all sectors is up about 3,000 postings from the previous year. So two questions. I want to start with James. James, can you tell us about the job posting trends on jobsinrockcounty.com? How are things going on that job board? James, are you there? Okay, we'll wait for James to get unmuted. I can move to Rhonda then. Rhonda, how are you seeing in terms of job posting activities, and do you see these increased job posting levels continuing? I mean, if you got out your crystal ball, what do you think the future holds in terms of job postings? Because again, we've seen that large increase year over year. So how do you see it going?
Well, I think in general, when we look at our local economy, I think, when it comes to labor market, we're back to our needs of where we were back in 2019, which was already a very tight labor market. We're going to be experiencing our retirements. And so as we're experiencing our retirements and our organizations or industries in our area are going to grow, we're still going to see a very, very tight labor market. In regard to job postings, they're going to be driven again by those retirements, and they're going to be driven by the ability of an organization to hire the staff that they need due to growth. And that's going to require all of us to become more creative in our human resources, our retention policies, our scheduling policies. A variety of different needs are going to be presented in our labor market right now.
Yeah, I certainly understand that. And James, if you're on, love to hear from you about jobsinrockcounty.com. How are things going on that job board? What trends are you seeing there?
All right, Dan, hopefully technology is working. Can you hear me?
We can. You're good.
All right, excellent. So here's what's been happening just with one little microcosm of kind of the online job boards, right? So you could look at Indeed postings, you could look at the statewide system, the Job Center of Wisconsin, or you could look at certainly Jobs in Rock County to kind of dive down into what's happening on the job posting side of the equation. Again, I think you need to look at all these with a grain of salt and consider the context. But case in point, here's what's been happening in the last couple calendar years in regards to jobsinrockcounty.com. So 2018, 2019, that system averaged about 375 postings every single month throughout the calendar year. Then in 20 and 22, that number jumped up to about 425 to 450. And right now in 2022, we're settling in about 325, plus or minus any given month. What I think what's going on right now, Dan, to be honest with you, is I think you've got a bit of posting fatigue on behalf of the employers. I think you have a number of positions that perhaps were vacant and not backfilled for perhaps consecutive, 12 to 14 month cycles. And companies have been able to figure out either A, how to deal without those, or more importantly, have backfilled with technology and automation. And so it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this calendar year shakes out. But I do see a little bit of drop in the postings that are out there. Now, oddly enough, there certainly seems to be increased demand in certain areas of the categories. So what I mean by that is there are 17 different job categories that employers can elect to assign their job postings to on Jobs in Rock County. They could range from everything from architecture and construction all the way to transportation, distribution, and logistics, right? So on average, at least this calendar year and arguably the last 2 calendar years, here's the top 5 categories where I tend to see most of the job postings, at least as reported, by jobsinrockcounty.com. So business management and administration. So this could represent anything from administrative support to human, resource type jobs to those that are in project management. Certainly in health services and human services. So you could be a healthcare practitioner, a technician, somebody in medical coding, could be a social worker, so on and so forth. Certainly education and training has been dominated by the K through 12 system, but certainly there are other higher education postings as well as corporate training opportunities that work their way into that system. Manufacturing, again, everything from assembly to machine operations to quality control to welding, you name it. And then the last category is transportation, distribution, and logistics, forklift, pack and ship, material moving, so on and so forth. What's been interesting is to see how on certain months and seasonality occurs, right? So certainly during the summer and winter breaks, you'll see an uptick in the education postings. And then what I've also noticed is take into account ramping up for tax time. Tax time rolls around, certainly there's a jump in the number of finance-related positions that are posting out there. And then certainly locally, I can tell when there are large job hiring waves that either new companies are taking on or existing companies that are expanding, where they're having some sort of a job fair dedicated to their particular business. Then you'll see jumps in production, manufacturing, as well as transportation, distribution, and logistics. So although it's a bit early, to kind of lock these in stone, I do think that there's some interesting things going on observation-wise. What I can tell you right now, year-to-date 2022 compared to, let's say, 2019, which was obviously pre-pandemic, the number of sessions and page views are down about 31 to 44% respectively. The number of Wisconsin job seekers has dropped by about 7% over that stretch, and the number of job seekers out of state continues to rise. Certainly, Illinois represents about 16 to 17% of those job seekers, but we're also seeing some additional interest from both the East and the West Coast, right? Job seeker categories, there's been an uptick in the 18 to 24-year-old category. 25 to 34 has dropped. The 35 to 44-year-old category has increased, and then those of us that are on the call that fit into that 45 to 54 year category, there has been stabilization on that front. So again, these are just some quick high-level observations that I see looking at the data both pre and kind of during pandemic where we're at.
Well, thank you, James. That's fascinating analysis, and I think it gives some great context for our future discussion here as we drill into this a little bit. And certainly these are interesting trends and interesting times, and things are kind of all over the place. And we're gonna get into that a little bit too as we go on here. But Rhonda, I wanted to ask you specifically. So I'll set this up. I mean, we at Forward Janesville, we do daily work in the workforce development space. We share workforce training opportunities with our members. We compile latest trend data, et cetera. And from all this work, we know all the great things that you do at the Southwest Workforce Development Board. But it occurs to me that some of our participants probably don't know about all of the work that you do over there. Can you share some of your most recent and important work and functions and how you're driving economic growth in our community? And I also want to hear a little bit more about how the Southwest Workforce Development Board interfaces with the Rock County Job Center. So Rhonda, tell us about all the great things you do.
Thank you, Dan. So I'm going to address your last question first because it's pretty straightforward. Southwest operates employment and training programs and oversees the workforce development system in job centers in the Southwest Wisconsin area. So we cover a district that includes Grant, Green, Iowa, Lafayette, Richland, and Rock County. Our primary customers are individuals who have lost employment through layoffs or closures, and those who have struggled to obtain or retain employment. We assist both adults and youth. In general, our funding follows a participant, meaning that we don't award grants to individual organizations necessarily to assist individuals. We work with individuals directly to help them achieve their career goals. So recently, last year, we were awarded funding through ARPA from the state of Wisconsin to fund a series of projects that a group of stakeholders had defined to be one of the most important or some of the most important or strategic in the area. Our projects support childcare or early childhood education teachers so that we can skill a workforce that is in demand by our communities. We know we need more childcare providers, and that particular program funds the training, supportive services, and actually provides stipends for those individuals in training. We also have projects under this grant to promote apprenticeships, to promote manufacturing, and leadership development skills in the area. And primarily, these funds are used to help individuals recover from the impact of the pandemic as it relates to workforce or employment. Great activity in this area. We're finding that when we're able to help offset the cost of living for individuals that are in training, in occupational skills development, workforce training, that their success rates increase, as do their outcomes. In general, all of our funding comes through grants that we've applied for or that we receive through formula funding. For example, our Food Share Employment and Training Program is there to assist individuals ages 16 on up who receive food share. And when we say assist, we primarily mean let us help you find the career path that is most appropriate to you and to the local economy. So if we can't check those two boxes, those are resources or funds that we would not provide. We're not going to train somebody for a job that's not available in the area at minimum or not available in the state of Wisconsin. Very, very proud of our youth apprenticeship program in Rocky Green County. We've increased or going to be increasing participation well over 100% in that activity in this upcoming year. And we really see positive results when businesses can connect with youth while the youth are still in high school. Specifically, if we want to talk about direct services to employers as it relates to employment training, we can provide on-the-job training contracts that offset the cost of extraordinary training, offset extraordinary training costs for employers who hire our participants. And we also offer incumbent worker training contracts, which are there to assist employers with the cost of upskilling their workforce to ensure continued operations, competitiveness, and to avoid layoffs. So if an individual is struggling with employment as it relates to a socioeconomic status, as it relates to lack of skills, dropouts, lack of opportunity because maybe they are young parents, a whole variety, coming out of incarceration, there's a whole variety of different programs and services that we can provide.
Well, thank you, Rhonda. It's very important work that you do, and you guys are really on the front lines of our workforce situation here in Rock County, as frankly our other partners on the call. And James, I wanted to throw this one over to you. You have been a leader of workforce development efforts through the work of Rock County 5.0, our public-private economic development cooperative. And the model has been very successful. And I know that the partners intend to continue using that template as a collaboration and really a funding mechanism. So just wanted to get from you an update on Rock County 5.0's activities related to workforce, and then maybe a history lesson, take a few steps back for some of our newer partners. So James, tell us how it's going with Rock County 5.0.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, and by way of history, I'll just touch upon some kind of foundational elements, and then we'll get into the answers to your specific questions. So for those on the call that may not be familiar with the moniker or the acronym Rock County 5.0, that was the public-private initiative that was really started during the Great Recession, and that was intended to help revitalize and reposition Rock County's economy. And so there were 5 specific strategies over initially a 5-year period, predominantly associated with 5 main partners. Well, as we got into that particular initiative and the program itself, it was much larger than I think anyone anticipated. So we obviously had extended that over, a decade plus activity. And so the first kind of wave or phase of the activities was really to kind of build up and enhance the economic development toolbox, right? So we had, media platform, we had certified shovel-ready sites, we had a virtual building portfolio, targeted industries, a variety of data and information and tools that were really designed to kind of beef up our game plan, so to speak. And then as we got into it, obviously, the economy continued to change. We got traction in certain areas, and it was evident that the workforce development topic was becoming more and more critical and certainly more important to everything that we were doing. And certainly that was not just one of our strategies, but more importantly, really started to command more of our resources, particularly in 2014 and 2015. We really started to shift our resource allocation towards workforce development activities. And so we were, investing about 50% of our resources into those particular areas. And so fast forward, right, another step forward, we've continued to use that collaboration as a platform to help generate ideas, to create programs, and more importantly, to administer and to fiscally serve and support those programs that are out there. 2 specific examples, the Rock Internship program. So this summer, in particular, in another couple days, we're going to wrap up the 3rd offering or 3rd cohort of that paid high school Earn and Learn Internship program, which is designed for incoming high school seniors. Again, the pandemic in year 20 and 21 forced us to shelve the program, but we had 2 consecutive offerings in 18 and 19 back-to-back, and then certainly we were able to revisit that topic during summer of 22. This Friday in particular is our graduation and wrap-up ceremony event associated with the program. About 25 high school students from throughout Rock County have participated in that 6-week paid internship program. A variety of placements with both for and nonprofit entities throughout Rock County. And I don't want to take any steam away from Friday's announcements, but we'll just leave it at that. Really good offering. In addition to that, we also had created a high school externship program specifically designed for high school instructors, guidance counselors, career and tech ed, anybody who basically had an opportunity to be a center of influence for students during the academic year. They were encouraged to apply. So we had 15 high school instructors that participated in that program this summer. That took place back during the month of June, and that was a 1-week paid externship for those individuals, and really good success out of that. And again, we'll have more to follow up here shortly, but those are just two primary examples of the programming and resources that have been developed out of the Rock 5.0 initiative specific to workforce development. And we continue to hope to use that platform as a springboard to enhance, scale, and grow not only these programs, but other value-added programs as well.
Well, thanks, James. And I can testify, we've had an awesome experience with the Rock internship program. In fact, our Rock intern is sitting at the front desk just outside my door here, and she's been absolutely delightful. And it's been a wonderful experience. And we've heard great things about the Rock externship program as well. So kudos to you. Let's keep it going. And we want to continue to increase business awareness of these great programs and really get it going for more of our area employers. So thanks for your work on that. I want to shift gears and move it over to Mark Horowitz from Blackhawk Tech and Tricia Clayson from UW Rock or UW, the University of Wisconsin Whitewater at Rock County. I did it. It's tough, I know. But guys, and you can take this in whichever order you prefer, but frankly, as we show in our dashboard, the MSA's overall civilian labor force has risen to nearly 80,000. Our unemployment rate has dropped down and averaging about 3.8% so far in 2022. And you guys on your campuses are really on the front lines of training our workforce. So tell us about specific noteworthy programming on your campuses that are succeeding, that you want the world to know about, that you could talk about here. So Tricia, let's start with you. Sorry, Mark, ladies first.
Yeah, Mark probably has lots and lots more specific things, because I think a lot of times when we think about liberal arts education, we often don't connect it to workforce development, even though clearly and inherently it is. The Rock campus specifically has had probably fewer workforce development specific related programs over the last several years. Though I think if you define it more broadly and you look at the fact that workforce development programs are inherently about identifying skill and knowledge gaps, inherently about providing access, and also accelerated access to various kinds of training. I think one thing I'd point to, and it'll probably overlap into the next one, was the launch of the Bachelor of Applied Arts and Sciences program, which is designed for students with an applied technical college degree. So it is taking all of those credits in so that we're trying to get students to degree faster so that they could advance in their career. So it's identifying, again, a gap in what they needed was the degree in order to get where they're going. And there are now emphases in criminology, leadership, professional selling, digital marketing. There's a personalized emphasis and a human services, which leads directly into the MSW program. I think too, what we've been really working on over the past few years with pandemic, both pushing and also creating challenges of getting there, is really looking more strategically at pathways and partnerships. And I think that's the only way we succeed in workforce development in Rock County, is looking at the relationships with tech colleges. We have lots on the burner there, relationships with our four-year partner, particularly Whitewater, and other institutions, like a coming program with Edgewood for a BSN in nursing, with our ongoing program with UW-Platteville for engineering degrees in mechanical and electrical, and they're launching industrial. Hopefully we'll be a part of that soon as well. So I think those are, for us, those are major partnerships that help us get to that place of workforce development. And if I think about Whitewater as a whole, and the strength of continuing ed in terms of professional development, many of that online, but I'd also, I sometimes think we forget about education itself as a workforce need. And I look at the College of Education at Whitewater being the top deliverer of teachers in the state. And then they have programs that I think are really inherently workforce development based, like Spec Ed for You, which is an online program for students in, again, degree completion, so that they're getting into that workforce faster. So those are things I would point to right now, but Mark, have at it.
Well, thanks. No, I think you hit on a lot of great key things here. And certainly it's not one solution, right? There's multiple things that our organizations are putting together, whether economic development, workforce development, education, to address workforce challenges, talent pipeline delivery methods. I'll just piggyback a little bit on what Dr. Clausen was saying too. Blackhawk is now moving towards offering an Associate of Arts, Associate Science. Again, all of that is to support student pathway and support students learning and through their journey of education, whatever that looks like in whatever form they want to take. I think the big key to that, and this ties into kind of your question, Dan, is that's keeping workforce and talent local. And that's what we want to do. We want to educate our folks locally so that they stay locally, work, live in our communities, and grow and thrive in these areas. So the more we identify partnerships and collaborations, connectivities between organizations that keep students local versus having them think about someplace else, that's just going to benefit our community, benefit our businesses, and better benefit our entire workforce region as a whole. But some specific programs additionally, right now we're really moving into our flexible learning model, which has offered opportunities for industry folks, manufacturing folks to come in, take one credit modules at their pace, at their time at our Milton facility. We have increased significantly. We're over a dozen companies that have sent individuals that are current workers to get upskilled and train them and move them through. We know that we're going to see a continued decline of knowledge leaving our economy, leaving our workforce. And so we have to continue to build that back up. And from our college standpoint, allowing a flexible model to let individuals come in at their pace and time, and then upskill as necessary is a way for us to offer a workforce related program that's flexible, supportive, and moves to the goals that what they're looking for. We're expanding our programming. We're adding dental hygiene. We're adding hospitality management. So looking at the region, looking at the demographics, looking at the job opportunities, looking at what's coming into the region as far as economic development, and making sure that as a college, we're addressing that and having programming that supports those types of initiatives. One of the biggest things that we're most proud of is our State Line Manufacturing Alliance. Under the leadership of Colleen Korth, we've grown to over 45 different companies. And really that's industry led. And I got to say, with all of our partners on there on this call who are part of the SMA, industry drives that. And it's awesome because they really have identified and said, we need to collaborate together to be able to make sure that we keep that talent local. One of the programs that we just completed was an accelerated industrial maintenance certificate. We had 17 high school students go through it this past summer. Many of them are planning to continue on their education in some form of manufacturing environment. We know there's a huge need. Employers that are part of the SMA have really banded together and said, we want to open our doors. We want to take those folks. We're happy to showcase what's behind our walls so that they know what kind of job opportunities we provide. Another one we're proud of in building that is the Amazon Career Choice Program, which is another one that it's a flagship in the region, but it certainly is one where they're investing, and multiple companies do this, right? They invest in their employees to continue their education, be it through an associate degree or a bachelor's level degree, and that keeps that education, that keeps those folks local as well. So we're proud of that program. Rock County Internship that James had mentioned, another program that has been a success and kickoff this past summer. Happy to be a part of that program. And I think I just want to add a little bit more on the externship program too, a little bit. That's where we brought high school teachers into that industry. And I think that really helps identify what's out there to address workforce challenges, to talk about skills that are needed to be successful in this region. We've transformed our campus. So we continue to look at how do we meet the needs of our police science folks and our law enforcement and our criminal justice and our EMTs and all those areas with our new public safety center that was supported by our community. So other than that, we're doing some short-term programs, but a lot of different activities to help make sure that we're moving at the speed of what's happening in our region to keep up with what's going on.
Well, Mark, thank you. And Dr. Clayson as well. Thank you for those remarks. And Mark, I'm glad that you mentioned the State Line Manufacturing Alliance. I mean, it really is an industry-led solutions-based group that's it's very impressive. We've been able to sit at the table for some of those meetings, and we've appreciated getting to know what that group is all about, and very, very impressive stuff there. And you mentioned a little bit about flexibility in terms of your offerings, and I looked into this a little bit, and while statistics vary, I mean, the consensus in academia these days is that about 3/4 of students can be considered non-traditional, right? So someone who didn't go straight to college after high school, and that can mean any number of things when you put that non-traditional tag on a student. But the fact is, many of our area businesses are employing non-traditional students, and I wanted to drill down a little deeper into that and talk about the accommodations that you guys can make for non-traditional students, and maybe drill into you know, what's out there this fall for working adults to advance skills. So either one of you, can you talk a little bit about efforts for non-traditionals?
Sure, I can start with that one too and just kind of lead into it. You know, I would highlight a couple of things and then finish with an action item, certainly that we have going for folks that are looking to upskill and continue on their education. But as a college, we've expanded a lot of our diversity and equity efforts to ensure inclusion, whether it be through support through our foundation with scholarships, or whether it be through support through our staff here at the college, to ensure that we provide a welcoming atmosphere for any student. And no matter what their background, what their ethnicity is, we want to ensure that that is a welcoming environment for individuals in our diversity, in our equity, offering ideal scholarships, offering different core values that fit and align to what we're doing for any student that's in a non-traditional occupation or seeking a non-traditional occupation. The other one is, I think, our MyEd choice. That has been truly a way for us, and it was right before the pandemic. So we, great foresight on our part, but we were able to put together some delivery models that allow a student to choose when they go to work, when they go to school, how they get their education. And I think for the non-traditional student who is an adult, who is a single mom, who is working, who is whatever, fill in the blank, any type of education we could offer in a flexible format that fits their schedule is going to help anybody in that non-traditional format. And so we continue to offer those, even though we're kind of moving a little bit away from pandemic mode. We still see several students taking advantage of our MyEd choice option to get education where they want it, how they want it, in the format that works best for whatever their lifestyle is. As far as additional upskilling, again, we offer certain things in continuing education, professional development. Our catalog's coming out for the fall this next couple of weeks. But certainly we're offering things in collaboration with Rhonda's team at the Workforce Board called Power Skills. And these are employability skills. These are soft skills. These are skills that if you're interested in becoming the next level leader, supervisor, whatever in your organization, sometimes it's nice to have kind of those tools in the toolbox. And so if we can provide that to these individuals, they can take some of those and then apply them directly to their working environment. And again, no matter who they are or what particular occupation they're in, these skills are transferable and they're across all boundaries. So yeah, I think, we live in a world right now where we have a lot of non-traditional, if you will, students coming to Blackhawk Technical College. So again, as we continue to grow and expand our programming, our folks are continuing to look at how do we reach individuals to make sure that we're offering them the best opportunity to be lifelong learners and to continue on to what they want to do.
Like Blackhawk Tech, UW-Whitewater Rock County has a long history of serving non-traditional students. And I think what's somewhat interesting is the definition of non-traditional is typically students over 25. Though when we were part of UW colleges, it was defined as 22 because we're a 2-year institution. But one of the things we've always said is that all of our students, to some extent, operate more like a non-traditional student, even if they're traditionally aged. They have greater challenges to time and demands. They may have some specific knowledge gaps that just based upon their high school experience, whereas an adult student comes in having been years out from the math and the English, and therefore it creates challenges. So I think to some extent, we're really built and operated specifically for non-traditional students in terms of the support services needed. The other thing that we find with many adult specific students is that they want very clear goal-oriented directions. And at a campus like ours that's so much smaller, where we have the one-stop shop model for student services, they're able to get access to information much more quickly and directly. And that's that's a huge benefit. And that's been useful too, like with the Bachelor of Applied Arts and Sciences program for students to just have I want to know exactly where I'm going and how long it's going to take me to get there. Like Mark mentioned, I think the flexibility of modality is increasingly important in non-traditional models, certainly online unique programs, but the option of attending remotely, and we do have more of that available. I do say that we see sometimes a reduced success rate for students in those programs, and where face-to-face may still be better for them. We want them to have the opportunity to succeed if they're not able to attend in that face-to-face environment. One of the other things that we're really focused on, I think that's relevant here, is trying to create pathways for students who do have the knowledge skill gaps, particularly if they would normally be entering into some kind of developmental math or English, that we can do so in an accelerated way so that they're not wasting credit, to get them up to speed where they need to be toward graduation. Trying to do, for example, in one semester, splitting up what would normally be a 2-semester sequence, but we do it accelerated, and so they're done faster. So, I mean, I think those are some of the key things that we work on. Developing definitely more in that online space, more certificate space in modules that aren't necessarily full degree pathways, but that can fit within a degree model for adults. So a workplace communication certificate or a cultural communication skills certificate, things that are useful for the career now, but that can drop right into a degree should they decide to move forward in more credit bearing areas.
Well, thank you for that, Patricia. I appreciate your efforts there, and Mark as well. And we've got about 7 or 8 minutes left on the call here, and wanted to get to a couple of questions for the full panel. So we've heard a lot about all the great programming that's going on out there, and there is so much of it. Besides awareness and helping with that, what can the business community do to aid each of your efforts in programming? And to drill down a little bit, are there specific programs that need more business community support? And have you identified any gaps in programming that could be addressed? And that can be open to anyone, so whoever wants to start that. How can the business community be more helpful in this workforce development space?
So Dan, I'm going to jump on just real quickly first, because I want to stress that though our resources that we use to assist individuals, it's really meant, the end user, for the lack of a better term, is local industry. So, we do not want to prepare a workforce and have that workforce be irrelevant to you. On the flip side of that, if I was to say that there was gaps, I encourage everybody to partner with like industry and employers so that you can identify shared interests, concerns, issues, like the State Line Manufacturing Alliance, where as a collective, there can be some solutions developed. If there's an opportunity to share openings with your local job center, we do work with hundreds of people every day in multiple programs, not just the ones that are available with the Workforce Board, but also with our job center partners, so that we can help you maybe align the individuals that we work with opportunities in your organization. If you interview somebody that says, you've got 30% of what I need, refer them to us so that we can fluff out the other 70% with our programs. The biggest one I see right now from from the voice of the business community is to continue to stress workforce training in our secondary schools. We have to prepare our workforce as quickly and as skillfully as we can, and it begins in high school. Those opportunities for dual credit, for AP class, for internships, for apprenticeships, those direct connections of these young men and women to your businesses is so important. And I think everybody who wants to belong to a community is we all have to continue to partner in placemaking and community development, so we attract people to our area.
Yeah, Dan, I'll just add something to that. A term I use oftentimes is diversify your talent portfolio. So what are you doing as a business to ensure that, to Rhonda's point, you're involved in some of the K-12 relationships that are going on? What are you doing to open your doors? What are you doing to be partners with post-secondary and higher education? What are you doing to get involved with workforce development? I think there's several opportunities that our organizations can provide. But it's the unknown of what happens behind those walls. And so as organizations have started to say, we need to make sure that we need to not just post on Rock County Jobs, which is a great site for us, but we also need to make sure that we have 3 or 4 other avenues that we're getting our business, what we do, how we do it, what our jobs are, getting that out to young people, getting that out to potential workers, getting that out to community members, to prospective new community members. So I think the more that a business starts to look at it and say, we need to have multiple channels of opportunities to engage with our community, with our education partners, with our workforce partners, that's going to continue to help them, I think, at least address, will it solve? Maybe not, but at least address opportunities to be involved to make sure that that talent stays local.
Any other panelists want to weigh in on this one? If not, I've got one last question. This one's ridiculously oversimplified and maybe a little fun. So, you know, we hear so much about workforce development issues in the world today. So everything from the Great Resignation on one hand to, you know, the fact that jobless claims just hit an 8-month high. If you were to pull out your crystal ball, any of the panelists, do you see when, if at all, do you see things going back to normal? And what does normal even look like at this point in the workforce development space? I'd be interested in hearing James's thoughts on this. What does normal look like to you these days?
Yeah, you know, that's a real interesting question. And I wish I had a concise answer, but I believe what we're experiencing right now is what the new norm is, right? I think we're going to continue to have this supply and demand mismatch because it's a math equation. And this math equation was penciled out in the early to mid 1980s, and fast forward to where we're at now, guess what? We're right in the thick of it. So those challenges are going to continue to exist. We're going to continue to see increased automation and mechanization out in the business community. I think you're going to continue to see certain industry sectors as well as companies within those sectors that separate themselves from the pack. To use the term that a couple other panelists have referenced, that engagement factor is going to continue to be kind of the difference maker out there. And we're already seeing it among industry sector partners as well as other stakeholders throughout the community that have decided to be bold, to be different. And they figured out that one size doesn't fit all. They've also figured out there isn't a singular solution. And more importantly, they've really invested in the concepts of starting early, scaling it, building it, working on that recognition, the brand and the opportunity, and more importantly, realizing that you just can't go it alone, right? You really got to hitch your wagon to a couple horses that are out there, and certainly we've got plenty of those horses on this panel today. So that's what I continue to see. Just on the flip side, Dan, and for the folks on the call, I don't see necessarily our local or regional economy slowing down. I can tell you the demand appetite for existing space, for certain types of land opportunities that are out there, particularly in the industrial sector and the warehousing sector, remain very strong. And unless there's some major hiccup at the national level, I fully anticipate that we're going to have, you know, a pretty robust end of this calendar year as well as hopefully into next, assuming that you know, that ugly word, the recession, doesn't decide to show up and, you know, throw a wrench in the machine here. But I continue to see upside, and there's going to continue to put pressure on the workforce because of that. Obviously, with commuting patterns up and down the I-90 corridor between Madison and Rockford are going to become that much more heavily populated with folks that are looking to, you know, go from one zip code to the next for employment opportunities.
Thank you, James. Any other panelists got any crystal ball comments about our workforce? Will things ever go back to normal?
Yeah, I would agree with James. I don't think there is a going back to normal. There's a book out called The Great Upheaval by Arthur Levine. He talks about the pandemic has been the great accelerator, not disruptor. And it has in education. It's really forced us to look at our business model and ensure that if we're going to keep up with this new normal, that we have to ensure that we continue to diversify and offer flexible education.
Rhonda, Tricia, any last words?
You know, everything that Mark and Tricia and James have said is, I mean, it's true. This isn't, you know, these are unprecedented times, you know, to a very large extent. Our supply and demand actors are, you know, realigning what they want out of the world and in their lives, their needs, desires, expectations. And we're, you know, we can sit on the sidelines and watch it, or we can attempt to maneuver within it and influence the end results. And, you know, we want our businesses to thrive, we want our communities to thrive, we want good schools, and we all play a role in that. And then I really think that, you know, getting involved and getting engaged is really going to make the difference on a very, very large scale.
Tricia,
I'm gonna try to-
yours.
I'll be really, really super brief. And that's just to say, I think normal is probably never going to be normal again, from the standpoint that people aren't the same. And so from the human perspective, what we've seen in terms of mental health and anxiety and challenges and how that's creating for those of us who expect people to act one way, and that's not who we are anymore, that it's not just the numbers game, but the human part of it is always going to head us in a new direction.
Well, thank you to all of you, Mark, Tricia, James, Rhonda. I think we are very fortunate to have you in these positions, and really just this great team on the front lines each and every day. Really great information, really great call. Thank you again to BMO Harris Bank for helping us to present this series. Again, thanks for joining us live, everyone. We'll present this recording far and wide and share it out, because this was just outstanding. So thanks again, everybody, for your time. I look forward to talking to you soon. See you next month. Thank you.